Well, hello and
Hello.
welcome back.
Well, thank you.
You are listening to another episode, another thrillingly fantastic exploration into the world of Kris and Annie and our opinionated popular culture conversations. Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fan-frigging-tastic.
Yes, as always.
Sorry, you froze up there on me. What'd you say?
Okay, no, I am fantastic as always, and I'm super excited about this episode because it's a topic of particular passion and interest for me. So I'm very happy to be here with you right now.
I am happy to have you as always, my
Yeah.
darling favorite co-host. And Emily was just with us a minute ago. Does she want to
Yeah.
come back and say hi?
No, she's keeping the dogs from barking in the
Oh,
background.
okay. Thank
Yes.
you, Em.
She's
Well,
on
we're
dog.
gonna have Em and David back at some point to do another show with,
Yes, they will be back. Point.
and they are featured in our closing reel. If you listen to the show on the regular, you hear Emily and David asking very kindly to give this show a rating and review. And maybe before we close out today, maybe we'll go read some of those because we are getting them and it's kind of exciting.
Oh, yay. Okay.
All right. Well, Annie, what are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about our top 5 favorite World War II movies.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Oh, I know for a fact that you and I are going to keep them. We may have multiple repeats because of how we were raised and the movies that we were raised on, because let's face it, we watched a lot of war movies growing up with our dad.
We sure did. Yes. I would say 3 of my 5, well, plus my honorable mention, were definitely movies that I may not have seen originally if Dad didn't already have them on the VHS.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it my turn to go first?
It is your turn to go first.
My turn to go first. Okay. I am starting with In Harm's Way from 1965 as my number 5. This is a movie that I actually did not watch until I was several years out of college and maybe even several years into my marriage, although I do recall this being one of the recorded films that Dad had on the Betamax. This is a Pearl Harbor and beyond look at World War II with John Wayne and Kirk Douglas and Patricia Neal and Brandon DeWilde and a plethora of others. Burgess Meredith, Henry Fonda, the guy from My Fair Lady is in this movie. It's Otto Preminger's film. He directed and produced, and you're basically dealing with not a submarine. What kind of boat did he have? Anyway, John Wayne is a captain of a ship, and they get hit at Pearl Harbor, and he's dry docked for a while and discovers a number of things about himself and meets a woman and connects with his estranged son. And then we go into what I think is eventually the McDougal raid, and lots of amazing things happening. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. It is probably one of the best performances that Kirk Douglas has ever had on screen. He is quite a conflicted man. And the love story with Rock and Maggie is just absolutely to die for. And I think she plays one of the greatest female characters, I think, in all of movies. She's strong, but she's vulnerable. She's the perfect match to Admiral Rockwell Torrey, for whom, my dogs were named. So anyway, that's a special thing for me in a number of different ways. But yeah, I could talk about this movie for an entire episode and then some, but that is my number 5, In Harm's.
I love it. So I'm going to go with another World War II John Wayne movie, but this one is The Longest Day. So The Longest Day being all about the events that leading up to the D-Day attack. And here on June 6th, we watch it together as a family. So because the kids have been studying World War II in high school and they know a lot more than they did, 10 years ago.
Right.
But obviously, my husband and I in the military, we study a lot, and so there's a lot that's very personal to us.
Sure.
Been served in the 82nd, and they airdropped into behind enemy lines essentially, and the one paratrooper stuck at St. Mary Glees. So there's so much personal attachment to this movie. I have a personal attachment all with my background with deception, and them dropping the little fake paratroopers that they referred to little Ruperts. So much about this movie that we connect with on a personal and on a professional, but then just on a movie level in terms of how it was filmed is phenomenal. John Wayne is as good as he ever is, because we all love John Wayne, let's just face it.
We do.
But you've got your Henry Fonda, and you've got Robert Mitchum, you've got all of these other amazing actors that a lot of them that had, experience in combat. Robert Ryan served, who's also in the. So I can't talk enough about how much I love, but I highly encourage everybody on June 6th of each year, go watch this movie and connect with the history of how it was that we beat the Nazis.
Well, all right. It's interesting how some of the best World War II films have been these incredible, epic ensemble casts.
Oh yeah,
we've both mentioned John Wayne already, and we're just at number 5. We've both mentioned Henry Fonda, but I'm looking up my list and thinking there's seriously an ensemble cast in the majority of these, and it's
well. So okay. You brought it up, so let me just go there. Okay, Longest Day.
Yes.
You got, right? I mentioned John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Henry Fonda. You got Eddie Albert, Robert Steiger. You have Red Buttons, Richard Beymer from West Side Story.
West Side Story.
Sal Mineo.
Oh God.
George Siegel, Robert Wagner, Paul Anka, Fabian, and then on and on and on. But it is insane. These, at the time, they were bit parts. Sal Mineo had a bit part in this movie, but there he is.
Yeah. It's crazy.
My nerd flag is flying. I got it. I love this movie. I love it. Richard Burton. Sean Connery.
Wow.
Richard Burton is in it, for God's sake.
Oh my God. That's insane. All right. So everybody go out and watch The Longest Day on June 6th. Make it an annual event. I think Charles and I may give that a whirl as well.
I would approve.
Okay, cool. My number 4 is from 2009, and it is Inglourious Bastards, and that is Bastards with an E. Quentin likes to take semi-historical things and kind of play up with them as if to say, what if this happened? What if it wasn't Sharon Tate that was murdered at that house in 1969? And in this case, what if, Hitler could have been taken out by some, resistance people in a movie theater owned by a Jewish woman who previously escaped from the throes of, what is his name? Hans Landa, the Academy Award-winning performance by Christoph Waltz. And that movie, again, began the love affair with Quentin and Christoph. He has won 2 Oscars now for Quentin Tarantino films. But, Quentin's a great writer. He finds amazing ways to kind of take on subject matter. And so you've always got something in the film that maybe wasn't supposed to be funny, that kind of has a comedic twist to it. And so some of these characters are true caricatures, like Brad Pitt's killing Nazis thing, and the bold Jew that comes out of the tunnel there, played by Eli Roth and his baseball bat. And I mean, again, you have another amazing ensemble cast in this particular scenario, and it's very well written, it's very clever, amazing performances, and just a very different way of looking at World War II from arguably one of the greatest American contemporary storytellers of American cinema. So there you go.
I love
That's my
it.
number 4.
Very nice.
The Bastards.
All right, so my number 4 is the 1953 From
Ooh.
Here to See.
Aha.
So the attack on Pearl Harbor, it's films basically, events that are happening in Hawaii, and then leading up the attack happens. So you got Burt as the first sergeant, and you've got Private Robert
Robert Lee Pruitt.
Pruitt, God bless Montgomery Clift, who I will
Yes.
never active. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. But so there's all these personal things happening in the lives of all the characters, and then there's also, we've just been attacked, we're going to war happening. So there's the World War II aspect of it, but then also like the characters, what's going on with them is pretty. It's hard to watch it at times because you're grieving for them because of through. You're falling in love with Frank Sinatra, who's playing Private Maggio.
Yes.
And you're hoping that Ernest Borgnine is gonna get his face punched. So there's so many things happening. You got Donna Reed as the dancing girl, if you will. I don't know how to describe her character necessarily, but the scene, you had it on your top 5 favorite movie kisses.
Yes.
Or the Burt Lancaster and Deborah Carr, which I don't know. I still don't understand. I don't know how they filmed that because it was like I could never kiss somebody with the waves rushing on me like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I love the story of how Frank role. I love that when I went to Hawaii and I went to the one of the buildings still has the bullet holes, on it from the attack that happened in 1941. So I'm again still very much attached, emotionally to the played out in this movie, and I love everything about it. So number 4, From Here to Eternity.
Good call. Well, that is a movie I would have included on my list, other than the fact that I, used it in the movie kisses episode. What was I thinking? That's hilarious. My number 3 is from 1998, and it is Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan.
Very nice.
Again, you've got just a hulking ensemble cast here, and certainly some of the finer actors of contemporary cinema. Tom Hanks, Matt Damon. Oh my gosh, you've got that incredible role played by Jeremy. Oh my gosh. Why am I forgetting everybody's names today? Well, anyway.
Or is like to die for in that movie. Yeah.
What's that?
Tom Sizemore.
Oh, yes. Tom Sizemore is in this movie. Barry Pepper, who I also love, and Edward Burns is in. Vin Diesel, yes. And oh my gosh, the guy from Higher Learning. Anyway, I'm having such an issue with actors' names today, just blanking left and right. But anyway, so a semi preposterous concept that there are 4 brothers that are all serving at the same time, and it comes down the pike that 3 of them have already been killed in action, and the administration is just not going to allow number 4 to be killed as well. So they put together a elite group, if you will, to go in and save Private Ryan. And along the way, you learn a lot about the characters, and you get a lot of insight on the type of person Tom Hanks's character is. And just that scene at the end, earn this, earn it, could go on my list of tearjerkers, because that is heavy and amazing and beautiful all at the same time, but brilliantly shot. I guess that opening scene is pretty hardcore and in your face and quite something to experience. So yeah, this was, I remember thinking too, this came out the same year as Shakespeare in Love, and I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a battle to the death between these 2 movies. Yeah. There was quite the split with the Academy Awards, but Steven Spielberg did rightfully earn the Best Director trophy that year. Although Shakespeare in Love wound up with Best Picture, but regardless, I enjoy this movie a lot and have watched it multiple times over the years. So yeah, Saving Private Ryan, my number 3.
Yeah. So my husband actually met with World War II veterans that when they watched the opening scene of that film, like they experienced PTSD like they hadn't felt in
Wow.
years because of how realistic Steven Spielberg pulled off the opening scene. You know, the guy who's like searching for his arm.
Yeah.
That's it's you can't you can't even appreciate how realistic it was unless you had been there. And unfortunately, they've all passed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it's hard, and I'm lucky that we're gonna go visit Normandy this summer.
Oh, are you really?
And I know that, and that's why Tom Sizemore character, he collects sand from every location that or at least dirt.
Right.
And that's one of those things, like Keith's like, I just have to get some sand from Normandy.
Oh, wow.
And I have to go to St. Mary Place and be there where the paratrooper, hung from the church. So yeah, these are also personal in so many ways. But I love the character. I love the character that, like, how Matt Damon, how his perspective shifts in the movie, and then how the team, how they rally with Tom Hanks. Their whole bet on what he did as a civilian.
Yeah.
And he was a school. It's an amazing movie. Yeah, I love it. I'm about to cry just talking about it.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so my number 3 is actually a tie. They're so like close to it, and they came out in the same year. So it's a tie between The Darkest Hour and Dunkirk. So The Darkest Hour being the story of Winston Churchill.
Yes.
Year in the 40 and leading up to the events that brought them into finally entering the war with Germany, to Churchill's decisions of let's employ all these small boats to save our men at Dunkirk. And then Dunkirk being the story of all of these men just like basically waiting to die, if you will.
Yeah.
And so that the two movies that came out in the same year, which so complemented each other in such a brilliant way. I'm sure it wasn't planned that way.
Right.
But I love The Darkest Hour because God bless him, Gary Oldman finally got the award.
Yes.
But the background of what's happening with history, and like trying to from the American point of view, when you go to like World War II museums and you see the newspapers, they're like, when is the United States going to do something? And where Winston Churchill's like calling Roosevelt saying, I need help, God damn it. So those two movies, like if you watch them kind of back to back, starting with The Darkest Hour and then watch Dunkirk, and I'm sorry, you got Tom Hardy, and that's your number 2 reason to watch that movie, other than the historical significance.
Dunkirk was a Christopher Nolan movie, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And
Tom Hardy is a frequenter in Christopher Nolan things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or at least of late anyway. He was Bane in the final Dark Knight movie. He was in Inception. Yeah. I've never seen either of those films. So I had to get my ass in gear here.
I can go on and on about Tom Hardy, but I won't. Plus you have Harry Styles. I'm sorry, but I really like that boy.
Harry Styles is in Dunkirk?
Dunkirk, yes.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Really
you
weird.
Don't know. Oh, you don't know you're beautiful. Okay. That was your number 3.
Yep.
Okay. My number 2 is the great 1967's The Dirty Dozen.
Okay.
And oh my gosh, if I had a nickel for every time I've watched this movie, it is one of those where if you're flipping through the, Amazon Prime or whatever you've got going on, if that happens to be on, as my friend Doug Ferguson will say, the remote gets tossed and we're just going to weave our way through. You could turn the volume down and I can probably, as well as you, say all of the lines. And, as I was this was directed by Robert Altman, who was also known for having directed Joan Crawford and Betty Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And it's interesting to have watched the the Duel or Feud miniseries, knowing that Robert Altman was the director of that film and that time, and that he went on to do this movie. And so to learn a little bit about Robert Altman's life now and put that in the context of Dirty Dozen. But I just this movie is exciting. It's funny. It's an incredible look at how you bring a team of people together that have nothing in common other than that they happen to be in prison and have been plucked out of obscurity to go on this, suicide mission, if you will. And again, you have another crazy good ensemble cast.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, this movie is just pure fun for me, although I know it's an intense story, and only two of them do make out, get out alive after, going to the chateau. But yeah, and I entertain the idea of what it would be like to recast this film, although God help anybody that
Uh,
attempts to remake this, because as much as I enjoy talking about it, I'd be really pissed, I think, if they ever really did it. So yeah, that's my number 2, The Dirty Dozen from 1967.
so that's also my number 2. So I'm just going to continue the conversation.
Let's
And
do it.
here's why you can't remake it. So the cast at the time, so Lee Marvin, Robert Webber, Robert Ryan, all served in the Marine Corps. Telly Savalas and George Kennedy served in the Army. Charles Bronson in the U.S. Army Air Force. Ernest Borgnine served in the Navy, and Clint Walker served in the U.S. Merchant Marine. So today, you're not going to find a cast that has that much military.
No.
And what they're being asked to do and what it means to have to shave with cold water.
Right.
It is actually, I wasn't going to put this on my list originally, but it is actually inspired by a real life World War II unit from the 101st, which they referred to as the Filthy 13. They were demolition specialists. So that made me, but it's all about, we got to go kill some high officer Nazis. And how we're going to do it. I love it. I love everything about it. I'm like you. We were raised on this movie and not realizing as a child the significance of it, or like the actors, again, the cast, what this did for Jim Brown. Like, honestly, this movie was like, it gave him an out from professional football, essentially. It's like, football does not have to be my life. I can, I have other talents. John Cassavetes. Oh my God. I love Victor. You're not supposed to love Victor Franco, but I do. And then, of course, you've got probably one of my favorite Donald Sutherland roles as Pinkley. And his playing the general. I have a sticker of him playing the general, because that's how much I love that scene. Where are you from? Never heard of it.
Madison City, Missouri, sir.
Ever heard of it. So yeah, as somebody who served in the military, you can identify with every single one of them, except for maybe Maggot. Like, I can't, like, Telly Savalas, you're a wacko. I can't identify with anything. You're just a nut. So yeah, I love it. I agree. I concur. And number 2 as well. And number 1 is going to be as well also.
Okay. So do you have an honorable mention?
Okay. So my honorable mention is, okay, let me caveat. I had no repeats, so I couldn't do the Imitation Game from 2014, because that's all about the deception of, and cracking Ultra.
Yeah.
Or cracking Enigma. So, and then I was going to go with Operation Mincemeat, but the first hour of the movie was great. The second hour, I couldn't get through. So my honorable mention is actually the 1953 Stalag 17.
Oh, wow.
We had it growing up. I didn't watch it a lot growing up, but I've since watched it quite a few times with my hubby. And every time I watch it now, I pick up something else that I love about it. So William Holden is just brilliant. It's a World War II German prisoner camp, and there's, somebody in there is a rat, but it's a Billy Wilder film.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It was written by people it was based on the experiences of 2 actual prisoners. So it's not necessarily factual, but it's based on real events. But William Holden is just phenomenal. I'm sorry. He's so good. There's a
He
theme
was
of
quite the little hottie back in the day. Sunset Boulevard, Bridge on the River Kwai, which was very close to being on my list, as
yeah.
was The Sands of Ujima. Did not make my list, but should be on my list. Yeah. I only
One of
saw
the,
Stalag 17 once, but I'm with you.
yeah. I love them in Sabrina. So,
Yes. Yes.
but Stalag 17 is my honorable mention.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, my honorable mention is a not obvious film, and quite honestly, I kind of challenge myself for even putting it on the list because it's not a very happy movie at all, and it is at times infuriating and upsetting. But I feel like people should watch this movie for understanding the pure evil that was behind what Hitler was doing over there. And so this movie is called Conspiracy. It's from 2001, HBO made for TV movie. It is essentially a movie about the retreat that happened where they basically planned out the Holocaust. And it is Kenneth Branagh plays the general, I guess, who's kind of running the show. Stanley Tucci is his adjutant or whatever you want to call that. And Colin Firth is in there, and a handful of other European actors that you may or may not recognize, but just the coldness, the calculated, the distant separation of any kind of emotional attachment to coming up with this plan is fairly upsetting and a little infuriating. But I think I wanted it on my list because I think, not that we ever need to understand why, but to know, or to even slightly be able to experience a piece of what that was from the understanding. I don't know. I'm talking out my ass right now, but I think it's a very powerful movie. And yeah, just.
And now that I'm looking at it, because I pulled it up as you mentioned it, I really, really need to see it. So I will watch it this week sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenging one. And again, I'm going to probably kick myself for continuing to put it on the list, but I just felt like it needed to be there, you know?
No, like in the same way that there's so many movies that we could have, like, from that perspective put on the list. The Pianist was on my, was a possibility.
Yeah.
We could do, I mean, yeah, trying to stay on
the happy ending side of it all.
Yeah. I'm losing my words because I've been to the Holocaust Museum in DC, and it's one of those things that when you experience it, nobody will ever fully be able to comprehend the pain. So yeah. So I'm going to watch this one when I have a nice big box of tissues and a 6-pack of beer.
Oh, you will not cry. You will be completely infuriated and charged up with a, like, please stop. Like, just stop. Everybody leave, go home. This, you don't have to do this. Because it is just, it's so sterile. It is such a sterile conversation that they're, talking about wiping out an entire religion of people just with the way that you might talk about dissecting a frog. So that part of it is really, it's just really hard. I have no other word.
Yes. No. All right. So I think we probably both have the same number one movie.
I believe we do. It is a movie from 1963.
That would be it.
That would be it. And it is called, Annie, if you would.
The Great Escape.
The Great Escape.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Cast of characters. Where do you start? You've got the super hot, super cool, Cooler King in Steve McQueen.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Hiltz. You have James Garner, the Scrounger.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You have Richard Attenborough, Intelligence, the Big X. You have Charles Bronson, the Tunnel King.
Yes.
And James Coburn, the Manufacturer.
Yes.
I wish he was back home with his kangaroos.
Yes.
This is another movie that Annie and I could probably turn down the volume and we can do all of the dialogue.
Pretty much.
So, based on a true story, a super prisoner of war camp that was meant to put all of the rotten eggs in one basket. This was supposed to be an impenetrable camp. And so the folks in there.
It was an unescapable camp.
Unescapable camp, yes. They were going to harass the enemy to the best of their abilities and did just that by formulating a tunnel scheme featuring 3 tunnels, Tom, Dick, and Harry. And yeah, it's action adventure, and you get good insight to what's happening in the POW camp. I don't know. It's fun. As much as you can say a movie about World War II is fun, but it is fun and quite exciting. Steve McQueen does a number. I don't know. Did he do that jump or he did most of the things?
He did everything but the jump.
Everything but that jump.
Yes. So here's a funny story about The Great Escape, because I got a whole list of things to talk about with this movie. But so John Sturges, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, produced and directed, right?
Yes.
So filming of it, Donald Pleasance keeps speaking up and saying, well, this isn't right. And Sturges is like getting irritated, like, who the hell is this guy? And turns out Pleasance had served in the Royal Air Force and was shot down and spent a year in a German prisoner of war camp.
No.
Yes. So that everything that Pleasance was bringing was like real world, real life experience. That's why I think it's so funny. And then Charles Bronson was a gunner for the U.S. Army Air Force. He had never been shot down, but he did have claustrophobia. So James Garner served in the Korean War. Richard Attenborough was also served. He flew several missions over Europe as a rear gunner. So like the real world experience of the cast that went into this film just makes it that much more like legitimate and convincing and pure. I don't know. I can't even. I get really, really crazy about this. But
Annie, I honestly never knew any of that before. So you're giving me some context with this that I hadn't considered. And, you know, when you talk about remaking movies, which generally speaking, I think is a terrible thing. And as much as I like to entertain the conversation behind it, I completely echo your sentiments that no actor today could bring that experience to, and, you know, one might argue like, well, that's why it's called acting. But still, I think, you know, you find a motivation to create an experience for a viewer that is going to feel like something that's real and not just a fairy tale of, you know, one of the most tumultuous times in our history and world history.
Yeah. So I think you and I definitely could do our best to try to recast it, but it's never going to happen. As a child, Steve McQueen, I was going to marry Steve McQueen. Yeah. That was going to happen. Here's another interesting fact. So the guy that wrote the music for The Greatest,
Elmer Bernstein,
he did, because of how much people identified and loved that music, and each character had their own musical motif. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. No.
Because of how popular the music was, he lived off the royalties of the music for the rest of his life.
Oh my God.
But you and I could sit here and we won't like completely kill, you know, your audience by singing, but we could sing all of the music, even though there's no lyrics.
Right.
So The Great Escape, because my background in teaching deception, and specifically like there's so many cases from World War II, but the amount of deception that they used to cover what they were trying, you know, to cover the operation of these tunnels is pretty clever, pretty fantastic. But also in the beginning of the movie, when Big X comes to the camp and he's like, you know, I want Hitler to be so mortified. I want to get so many people out there that Hitler expends all of his energy trying to find us, that it's going to cause a huge disruption for the Nazis. So that in itself is almost like we're willing to sacrifice that. A, it's our job to escape. But B, we want to get him so frustrated that he is incapable of making like valuations, which, let's face it, he was incapable of that anyway.
Yeah.
But that is what, like, there's so much behind the psychology of what's happening in that film that I'm just fascinated with, and I cannot get tired of it. So over and over again, I can't, like, if it's one of those movies where if it's on television, it has to stay on in the Pruitt household.
Because the remote will be thrown.
Yeah. And like now, like, as much as I wanted to marry Steve McQueen, like I think I want to marry James Gardner just as much. I don't know. I can't figure out who I'm.
And what's his face that became Ducky on NCIS, the inventor guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, just folks in this, and Richard Attenborough came out of that and became an incredible film director of his own right. He directed Ben Kingsley to an Oscar, and Gandhi did a number of amazing things. Yeah, there's just not a bad role, bad part in that film at all. It's genuine and highly entertaining as well.
Highly entertaining. Yes, that is another. And I'm sorry, Steve McQueen on a motorcycle. Boom. There you go. That's all you need.
Hey, that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Except that there's so much more. Okay, Annie, let's do a recap.
All right. So to recap, my honorable mention was Stalag 17. The two movies that I wanted to include but couldn't, Operation Mincemeat and The Imitation Game. It is what it is. So from 5 to 1, I have The Longest Day. From Here to Eternity, I had a tie with The Darkest Hour and Dunkirk. And then I shared with you our top 2, Dirty Dozen, and culminating with The Great Escape.
The amazing 1963 Great Escape. Yes. Well, 2 that should have made my list and didn't were, oh my gosh, The Sands of Iwo Jima, and another one that you mentioned now that it's escaping me. So anyway, that was going to make my list and didn't. My honorable mention is Conspiracy. Number 5, In Harm's Way. Number 4, Inglourious Bastards. That's Bastards with a Terds. Number 3, Saving Private Ryan. And echoing Annie's list, number 2 and 1, The Dirty Dozen from 1967 and The Great Escape from 1963. And oh my gosh, so many World War II movies out there. We didn't even touch on like some of the other things that Dad loved, that like Destination Tokyo and Tora Tora Tora. We could have even done a top 5 films that were in color about World War II and top 5 movies were in black and white about World War II. You can run the gamut in this because there's so many.
Just about D-Day. You can do top 5 movies just about POWs. I mean,
it's just about Pearl Harbor.
And we didn't even get on. I think did I use Midway as a remake? I don't know. Like, the new Midway was so good.
We talked about that in another episode, although I don't recall.
Yeah.
I don't recall remakes. Yeah, it was the remake episode that we did.
Yeah. So it's so hard.
And it will be noted and does not need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm very proud of us for not including the Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett, Pearl Harbor.
I don't know. Yeah.
Although Josh Hartnett is quite nice to look at in that film, but oh my God, this is me poking my eyeball out with a pen.
I'm not listening to you right now. La, 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 la.
Hey, let's read a rating review from our show.
Okay.
So Janice McQueen from the Beauty Call podcast says, I love this podcast. It is fun and entertaining. Just what I need in a show. Cannot recommend enough. 5 stars.
Fun.
Thanks, Janice. We appreciate you. And we would love for you out there to leave us a rating and review as well. And you can do that by going to anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And just leave those stars and write nice things, because it makes a huge difference for us. And it sort of, strokes our ego. And I mean, who doesn't want to hear nice things about the podcast that they love so much, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we are going to knock off for today. I'm Kris. She's
I'm
Annie. You're Annie. And this is the Top 5 podcast. We are super, super duper grateful and happy that you downloaded this week's show and that you share it with your friends and that you talk about it at work, around the water cooler. Do people still talk about things around the water cooler? I don't know. But if you do, we appreciate it. So thank you.
all right.
And yeah, that's it for this week. We will catch you on the flip side. Adios.
Adios.